All right, Nick. We are trying to produce some late inning magic. It's not looking great. Reds offense has gone cold, down 3-0 to the Guardians of Cleveland. It actually sounds all right. The Guardians of Cleveland, like they're guarding the city or something.
Maybe that's how you should recommend they introduce them always. I mean, you might be onto something.
Yeah, the Guardians of Cleveland. Maybe they do that. I mean, I don't know. It's very possible. Very, very possible. All right.
I hate these 6:40 starts with a passion.
Well, they're definitely not fun when they cost you 2 runs.
Yeah. Well, not even that. It's so
know.
hard. So much harder to be like ready to go at 9 o'clock than like 9:30. It's just pain. And then when you're down like this, just
no, I know
it's
not
puts
great.
me in a bad mood.
I understand.
I'm hard to get in a bad mood. I'm hard to get in a bad mood.
I know. Let me cheer you up, Nick. Listen, we're gonna be all right. It was a bad night. It's been a bad night. We're a walk, a hit by pitch, and a big swing away. That's what they do in baseball. That's what they do in dugouts. They always doesn't matter if you're within a couple runs.
There we
go. That's always the dugout chatter. No matter how bad it's been, there's always something. We're a hit by pitch, a walk, and a big swing away.
I will say Class A has struggled a little bit of late. He's usually as good as they get, but I know he has blown a few saves of late, so hopefully he's not right yet.
Well, it's a good start.
He gave up 3 runs in his last outing, 4 hits, so Henry could use a hit.
It's a good start. It's a good start. All right. Come on now. Henry Ramos, just the guy. Just the guy that can do it for us. You know what, though? I got to be you want some optimism?
I definitely do.
All right. Well, here's the optimism. I'd like to think that in just a few short years, very short years, when people are trying to convince you of waiting and being patient, they call it short. So I'm going to say they're short years, not long years. It's tough, man. If you're going to get that called against you, Ramos, might as well pack it in. But here's the thing. I'd like to think our depth is going to be so good in a couple years that we're not going to have to watch these guys that are just not major leaguers anymore.
Yeah.
Because that's what I feel like I watch sometimes.
There's too many fringe major leaguers.
Correct. Yeah, it's one of those things where I could live off the idea of having a guy come up that's a platoon or a guy that you're kind of mixing in the lineup that's young and you're thinking that he's just not ready yet. Maybe that's why he's not been productive, but his ceilings are high. Like, imagine having a guy like Ellie, who's one of a fringe guy for you. You know what I'm saying? Really, like, he might not be 100% ready to be an everyday player for us, but he's good enough to help us. He's going to be a good defensive replacement, and he's also probably going to be a guy when you stick him in the lineup, he can provide a spark. We're rolling out guys like Henry Ramos and Hopkins. That ball was hit so hard. I don't even know why people try to get in front of those baseballs. I literally would have taken someone's hand off. I'm afraid that you're ahead of me.
Somehow I'm watching on your FUBU. They'll find us FUBU lords, and somehow I'm still ahead of you.
It's FUBO.
FUBO.
FUBU, I think, is a whole other line. That's a whole different industry.
Yeah, I've been on a real kicker tonight. Watching on a bootleg stream for a while. Now on this, the Cleveland Guardians are the only baseball team that I can't watch on my DirecTV.
Let's be honest. That's what really pissed you off. The 6:40 start, the ability not to even get the game on TV, just the whole all of that. No runs, people yelling about your splits and platoons and analytics and stats. You swirl that baby up, you mix that thing up, you got the recipe for a Kirby disaster. That's just not going to do it, man. Damn. It's brutal. You know, one thing that's been disappointing about CES a little bit, if I'm being completely honest, is I just thought that he was going to accidentally run into home runs. Like, he might hit 180, but I thought he was just going to hit, like, I don't know, at least a home run a week or something ridiculous.
Yeah, no, I'm with you. I thought he'd have a much, like, he's hitting 253 right now.
Yeah, right.
But I thought if he's hit 253, he'd have like 6 home runs. You know.
Yeah.
I thought CES would be Joey Votto.
Yeah. No. Yeah.
I thought Joey Votto would be CES.
Yeah.
Like, they've kind of almost flip flopped what I kind of thought they would be.
All right, we need him just to get on base, not swing at balls when you're up 1-0 in the count. Easier said than done on 100 miles an hour. It's just tough. What a tough little stretch of baseball we've been in here.
Yeah.
Guy's pretty good, man.
Yeah, not looking like he
Guy's pretty
all
good.
those blown saves.
Yeah, guy's pretty good.
Fruit will make him work, though. You know what? That's what you can always count on with TJ.
I hope so.
He's always gonna.
Let's battle.
Always gonna grind.
Let's swing at strikes. Put the bat on the ball. All right. What made you think he went with the pink or the blue hair? What made you think that he liked blue? He's like, all right, I'm gonna go with the blue hair.
You know, I think it's a smart marketing tactic. The more unique you can be,
yeah.
You know,
That's a good point.
I support it.
It's a good point.
Yeah, I'd love to see Benson get a crack here. Find a way, TJ. Get on. Well, in positive news, I'm not even going to say it. Not even going to say it because who the Cubs are playing.
Yeah, let's not do that.
No, not even going to say it. Not putting it out there.
Yeah, no, you can't
We've
trust
seen
the
too
White
much
Sox.
of that. We've seen, oh, no, you can't say it.
You can't
Can't
trust
say
them,
their
dude.
name. Don't say their name.
You can't trust them, dude. I wouldn't trust them as far as you can throw them. I watched them play a baseball game one time, and let me tell you, they went the extra innings, and they ended up losing in extra innings in a game that was 0-0. I think when it went to extras, they lost like 8-1. Lance Lynn, by the way, started that game, and that's just not going to do it. All right. All right. Let's do a baseball show.
High drive, left center field, racing back to the Laurel Bourgeois. The Reds are National League Central Division champions. In the air, left center field. Did he? He did! He did! Reds win! Line into right field. Genius, the first run ever with 4 home runs in a game. Can you believe it? In the air down the right field line. Doesn't have a chance. The Reds have won on a 3-run home run on opening day by Ramon Hernandez. A strike away and out away is Homer Bailey. Ground ball to third. Frazier gloves. Throw to first, and Homer Bailey, for the second time in his major league career, has tossed the no-hitter. Oh, gosh. Oh, my God. Are you kidding me? Holy Moses, the second player in major league history to hit 7 home runs in the first 10 games. In the air, and the Reds win. What a dream beginning to a career of Jay Bruce.
All right, Nick. Not a banner day for Chatterbox Reds. Not a banner day for the Cincinnati Reds as they drop to the Cleveland Guardians. The Guardians of Cleveland. 3-0. 3-0. to nothing. Nothing. Zero. Not a single run. Hard to win baseball games when you don't score a run. Some say it's never happened. I don't know where to start. I mean, the box score recap, if you're ready to go, I'm ready for it. I promised this chat, I promised this nation that is Chatterbox Reds Nation that we were going to do a decent show. It's going to be a decent show. We're down in the dumps a little bit here. All right, we are treading water, if that's a thing. I don't even know if we're treading water at this point. We need a life jacket. Somebody needs to throw us a raft because we're sinking fast, Nick. We're sinking fast, man.
Yeah, we need the Houston Astros to throw that raft right about now. Hang on, Houston.
Yeah.
All right.
But nonetheless, go ahead and give him the box score recap.
All right. Top of the first, Graham Ashcraft allowed a leadoff single to Stephen Kwan. Then Spencer Steer lost a ball in the sun thanks to the lovely 6:40 start time. And just like that, the Guardians had runners on second and third. Ashcraft got a strikeout, but then a weak single by Cole Calhoun made it 2-0 Guardians. Reds really didn't have a whole lot of chances. Best one probably was in the bottom of the sixth. Matt McLean had a leadoff walk. Ellie De La Cruz had an infield single, very fortunate infield single. Then Spencer Steer hit a ball to deep right field. McLean tagged and easily got to third base, but Ellie also tried to tag up and take second and was thrown out on a nice throw by Guardians right fielder Will Brennan. Henry Ramos struck out to end that threat. In the top of the seventh, the Guardians scratched across another run off Ashcraft, but he was still fantastic. 7 innings pitched, 3 earned runs, 2 walks, 2 strikeouts. Alex Young, he did his part, was absolutely incredible. Two perfect innings with 3 strikeouts, but the Reds offense got shut out by the Guardians 3-0. Your final here on this Tuesday.
Yep. Well, here's the thing. Chat's going crazy. I know Twitter, X.com, is going crazy. These are the times where I try not to overreact in a little bit of a way. I know that that's a little tongue-in-cheek. Most of the time, I'm the guy that screams and yells at a microphone. But I do think that there are situations where there's some truth to the platooning. There's also some issues with just this team in general. You know, I don't know what to blame. I think some of it's just this team is not as good as we would hope for them to be. And then I also think that when there's a lefty that throws, let's just get this out of the way. If Fraley's not in this lineup, India's not in this lineup, then just in general terms, I'm thinking, at least on my end, and I know I'm missing somebody right now off the top of my head, this lineup isn't good already, I guess. It's not great. And when Ellie struggles, then it's double down time. Then it's almost like, you know, there's really only a few guys left at that point. Will Benson, McLean, Steer, I guess. And all of those guys are, I wouldn't consider them elite level hitters. You know what I'm saying, Nick? Like, they're good hitters. Matt McLean's a very good hitter. But outside of those guys, there's not a whole lot left. A lot of fringe major leaguers that play for this ball club a little too often. And this is where we're at. We get shut out. I'd like to think one day Kevin Newman, TJ Hopkins, even Stuart Fairchild to a certain extent. And again, I think Stu has a chance to turn it around at some point in regards to being a decent major leaguer. I'd like for the Cincinnati Reds not to have to play those types of players. Henry Ramos. I think I'm just going to shut up because you get my point.
Yeah, I mean, I think, you know, India being out of the lineup really hurts this team a lot versus left-handed pitching. Fairly hurts this team a lot versus right-handed pitching. Nick Senzel, I know he got sent down, but he was a big part of why the Reds had so much success early in the year against left-handed pitching. I know he had been struggling of late, and I'm curious what is, because he still hasn't played for Louisville, so that's a whole nother point, but I don't know if he's coming back, if this was just because this was the only lefty the Reds played in like a stretch of several games or not. But yeah, I mean, there's too many fringe players. I still think this was probably gave the Reds the best chance tonight. I guess if you wanted to, you know, lose with the different lineup, you could, but it probably would have been the same result. I remember 2021 when the Reds ran Jesse Winker out against left-handed pitching and ran Joey Votto out against left-handed pitching every day and lost every time almost against lefties. So I don't really think there's a lot of good options right now. I think that in these type of matchups, I don't think David Bell has a lot of great choices. I mean, there was, Matt McClain, Ellie De La Cruz, Spencer Steer, Christian Encarnacion Strand. None of those guys had an extra base hit tonight. Like that,
Right.
those guys have to play really well for the Reds to have any chance right now. And they just didn't play well tonight. And look, you have to give some credit to Logan Allen. I mean, this guy with the ERA in the low threes this year. Like, he's pitched really well all year. He's a good pitcher. This wasn't some scrub. This guy's probably going to get Rookie of the Year votes this year. And he pitched really well. And yeah, one criticism I'll give. I'm not a big lineup structure. I don't think it matters as much as everyone likes to make it out to be. But I do think I would maybe like to see Spencer Steer bat leadoff against left-handed pitch. He's crushed lefties all year. You can leave McClain still in the 2-hole, but at least you're throwing your two best guys out there against a really, good left-handed pitcher. You're making him really right off the bat have to be locked in. I don't have a problem with Kevin Newman playing, but I do think maybe you could bat him a little lower in the lineup. Maybe you could also buy Spencer Steer an extra at bat against the lefty. The side that he's pitched a lot better. That's probably the only thing that I probably would do different.
That's fair. There was one super chat already. Thank you to Doug. He said this was the worst showing of plate discipline by the Reds. I mean, yeah, it's just a bad showing, period. But I understand the sentiment. I also think that this team in general at times struggle with plate discipline, but that mostly just feels like an Ellie problem more times than not. And that's just part of the deal. I mean, I'm not going to sit here and crush all these young kids. I seen Who's Your Daddy, who's been an OG in this chat from the very beginning, say, I was saying that I couldn't wait to get rid of India to a certain extent. Now I'm begging for him to come back. That's a fair point. But if the depth of this team is as bad as it is, especially when Fraley's out and you got other guys out, then I don't know. I mean, Jonathan India, I think, again, I'm not trying to kill our own guys. Do I think he's as valuable as everyone makes him out to be? I don't, but at the same time, I'm not going to sit here and act like he's not a better option over Kevin Newman. I'm not going to sit here and act like he's not a better option than Nick Senzel, which he's obviously not here anymore, or a Hopkins or Ramos or any of these guys that are obviously AAA fringe major league players. Jonathan India is not that. He's not like that low of a level player. I just don't think that moving forward, and you've seen it again tonight, that Jonathan India has a spot at second base. That's been my point. That's been the main focus of my conversation since the very beginning. Matt McClain and Ellie De La Cruz, when they play up the middle defensively, they show you usually on a night-in, night-out basis as to why you probably don't want to move them positions, because they are relatively elite at their positions, especially when they're together. Ashcraft tonight. Before we get to Ashcraft, I do want to bring up something. This is the only thing that I want to push back a little bit on the whole splits thing. Okay, every time you bring up the fact that, and obviously you tweeted about it tonight, this left-handed lineup, when they face left-handed pitching, when I tweeted about it months ago and said that there was so many holes in it, it's because of the guys that you have to play because their splits are so bad. On the opposite side, you have to force yourself into playing fringe major league players. And I'm not suggesting that it's not the right option more times than not, but you can't tell me it's a better lineup. That's my main point. If a right-hander's throwing and a left-hander's throwing, it should be inarguable. There's nobody in the world that should want to look at me and look at you in the face, Nick, and tell us that there's a better lineup and a better opportunity for the Reds to score more runs if they're facing a quality left-handed pitcher versus a quality right-handed pitcher. I think, again, statistics can become a little frayed when you look at them in a microscope, because sometimes it's not apples-to-apples comparisons. If you face a couple bad lefties, and again, I haven't got a chance to look these statistics up, and I will, but if you face a couple really bad lefties, and to Joey Votto's credit, he faced a couple bad lefties earlier this year. The worst pitcher in the league Joey Votto faced earlier this year. I think it was his first game back, if I remember right. And he hit a couple home runs. The Reds pounce on those type of guys, but if they face a quality left-handed pitcher, I'd like to see how they do. The other thing I want to bring up, when you bring up these splits, well, our everyday players have unbelievable splits against left-handed pitching. So that's part of the problem too. So it's not like you're gaining a huge advantage, in my opinion, by getting these guys that are hitting against left-handed pitchers that are coming in from platoon standpoint. Right now, I'm looking at the splits. Matt McClain. Again, batting average, is that the best term to use here? Maybe I'll use OPS. It doesn't matter. He's a 285 hitter against right-handed pitching. He's 333 against left-handed pitching. He's got 1,000 OPS against left-handed pitching. He's got an 800 OPS, which is still pretty damn good, against right-handed pitching. You want to go to Spencer Steer? Spencer Steer against right-handed pitching has a 250 average against right-handed pitchers. He has 307 average against left-handed pitchers. His slugging is 950 against left-handed pitchers. These guys play every day. The statistics they're being manipulated by the guys that play every day. They're not being manipulated by guys that get platoon starts. Okay, they're not. And then the last guy I would put up is Tyler Stevenson. Tyler Stevenson, who gets a decent amount of at-bats, unfortunately for this team, he's hitting 226 against right-handed pitchers. He's getting 226 against right-handed pitchers. He's hitting 280 against left-handed pitchers. So I'm just named 3 guys. Obviously, I don't want to sit here and just keep rattling off numbers all day long, but you can't, I guess my point is, like, you can't just sit here and be like, well, they're not that bad against lefties. It's like, well, they're not bad against lefties if you look at it in a microscope and you look at it from a holistic standpoint, that the 3 everyday guys, and I use Stevenson as an everyday guy, and I don't know if that's fair or not, but maybe I should look Luke Maley up too. But those guys are so much better against left-handed pitching that I think it skews the statistics. Now, you may argue that those platoon guys like Fraley, I guess, and maybe a Will Benson, and maybe even like Ellie De La Cruz averages all that out. I don't know. But that just seems inarguable, Nick. Like, people can make fun of me all they want. It just seems impossible for you to look at a lineup card and think to yourself, man, I'm glad we're facing a left-handed pitcher today. No, does anyone do that? There's no way.
Trace, I don't agree that the Reds right now, the Reds lineup is definitely better against right-handed pitching. There's no question about it. But I think back when you were talking about this, I don't think Will Benson had really come around yet, right? Like, Will Benson has really turned this lineup around against right-handed pitching. He's a huge part of that. Jonathan India was also in the lineup, a guy that hits lefties well throughout his career.
Not this year. This year, he's got like a 50-point swing between right-handed pitching and left-handed pitching.
But again, look at his overall career. It's pretty drastic. And then there also Joey Votto wasn't back yet. So I think right now there's no question this lineup is better against right-handed pitching right now. And also Nick Senzel was crushing lefties earlier in the year too. So
and that's not sustainable.
Maybe
Nick
not.
Senzel
But
is not going to hit 400 his whole entire life against lefties.
No, that's certainly not sustainable. But can Nick Senzel be an above-average hitter against lefties throughout his career? Yeah, I think he probably can. He's been a significantly better hitter. Now, granted, still not great, still not what you're expecting out of your number 2 overall pick, but he has been better. So I do think over the course of the year it's changed a little bit from then. But yeah, there's no question, especially a really good left-handed pitcher. I think the Reds could sneak these kind of lineups out and probably beat some bad lefties. But man, when you're facing guys like Logan Allen, guys that are really good lefties, you're really going to struggle. And this team really needs Jonathan India back. I think there's also, if you look into, this is really getting into the weeds, but if you look into some of like the StatCast, like expected numbers, Jonathan India's expected numbers against left-handed pitching were really good this year. I honestly, genuinely think that those splits this year with India were pretty very small sample user error type thing. I think you give him 100 at-bats against lefties, 100 bats against righties coming up, he's probably going to hit the lefties way better.
Okay. I mean, listen, this team hasn't been playing well right now. Winning fixes everything. If this team was finding ways to win these games 2-1, 3-2, would we be as pissed off as all of us collectively are? Probably not. It just stinks that this team played maybe, and we'll see. Again, I'm not giving up on this season. It's certainly not over, but it just stinks that it's starting to look as if maybe this team played its best baseball already. Its best baseball is already behind them. I don't know what I don't know what the end result looks like to get these guys back on track, but it just seems pretty simple. It seems like Elly De La Cruz has to get back to his old self. We can't keep beating this dead horse on this show every single night, talking about Elly and this, that, and the other. But it certainly feels that way, man. It certainly feels that way. Ashcraft getting into him. Another great outing. Great outing. I don't want to call it a good outing. I thought it was a great outing. The ball in the first inning, it's caught. Any other game that people can see in left field. For those that didn't get a chance to see it, basically, if you've ever been to Great American Ballpark around 6:40 in the summer, or even for that matter, honestly, 7:10 in the summer, it probably goes away around 7:25, 7:30 in the summer, is the Sun Field. That is left field. It's so bad, Nick, that I genuinely went out there one game for an evening game. I don't know if it was a 6:40 start or a 7:10, but I was sitting out in left field, and I was like, I'm not ever sitting out here again. And it's not because I don't think the seats are great. It's just like I barely could see what was going on for the first 2 innings of the game. I don't know how you fix that, if you can even fix it, but I do think it's actually genuinely a problem. I know we're supposed to talk about Ashcraft here. I don't know if you want to talk about the whole Sun Field and left field thing, or if you want to maybe just stick to Ashcraft and tell me to kick rocks, and we'll worry about that another day.
No, let's talk about 640. 640 is garbage. It's awful. I hate these 640 starts. They already put me behind me. They put me in a bad mood. They do. But no, the reason for the 640 starts, part of it was to get the games over quicker. Well, we already get the games over like 30 minutes quicker. So can we get them back to 7:10? Like, we have a pitch clock now. I don't know. I think most people genuinely don't like 640. I know there's some that do, especially people who have to work early, and I feel for those people, but I don't, like, there's a reason like primetime TV doesn't come on at 6 o'clock at night, right?
Right. Yeah. Sorry, I'm typing, and I don't want to ruin your point here.
It wasn't that good. It was mediocre at best.
Listen, I'm trying to moderate the chat here while we're doing a show. I get everyone's frustrated. I do. I understand why. I'm right there with you. I just think that we're in a position right now that my gut's telling me we're just not as good as I hope we are. That's what my gut tells me. And I hate to be that guy. I don't want to be a negative guy. I don't want to be the person that comes in that seems like I guess let me be very clear when I say this. I think there's a vast difference between being honest and being real and having some levity to it in regards to just thinking maybe we're not as good as we really are, and screaming and yelling about how, this team's horrible, David Bell has to get fired, Nick Krall stinks, and the ownership needs to sell. I think there's a huge difference between the two. I am excited about the direction of this franchise. I know many fans don't want to hear that. I know many fans are disgusted with the fact that they got to wait and wait and wait. But at the same time, a lot of these guys are very, very promising players. They're fun to watch. I think that they're good players. They might be a little too young, and they need some more help. We need some big power bats, man. We really do. I don't know where you get those. I don't know how you get them, but we need some power bats. We need some guys in the lineup that when they come to the plate, you expect them to hit the ball really, really hard. And I don't know if we have a ton of those guys. I really don't. I mean, do you think that that's a realistic thing to possibly get? I mean, I'm not trying to start the shop for next year or give up on this year, but I'm just sick and tired of not having an elite level power bat. And maybe CES will be that, obviously, for next year, but we just lack that significantly.
Well, I mean, I think Elly's going to be that. I just, he's going to have to get a little bit better. He's going to have a little bit better, obvious command of the strike zone. But he's clearly, I think, going to be a guy that's going to hit for a lot of power. I do think CES, I think what he's shown so far is not at all what's going to be out of him long term. The one thing that's maybe encouraging about CES is he doesn't feel like he's as overmatched as I thought maybe was possible. Like, he is making contact at a decent rate. So that makes me optimistic that the power is going to come with him. And then Noelvi Marte. You want to talk about when Noelvi Marte gets here, the platooning is going to slow down quite a bit. I think That's probably good for everyone.
It's definitely good for this chat. I definitely think it will mend some relationships if we're able to not platoon as many guys.
Well, yeah, I mean, because CES is not going to be platooned. Ellie De La Cruz is not going to be platooned. Steer's not going to be platooned. Marte's not going to be platooned. I mean, that's already like over half your team. So I think that's going to help a lot of the platooning is when Marte gets here. And if they decide to keep India and maybe make India as like a DH slash, you play him a little bit at second base, like a Max Muncy, like we had talked about before. Right. I mean, that's almost a whole lineup where maybe you're only having one or two guys platoon and everyone's a little bit happier and a little bit, and there's a little bit more fluidity to that. But I genuinely think the Reds probably right now are doing the best they can. TJ Friedl, I think, should play more against lefties. I think that also maybe would get Spencer Steer out of left field. It could have happened to anyone out in left field, but Spencer Steer is clearly not your best defensive left fielder, so that could help that. I just think Friedl was in the lineup today just because of the drastic splits that Allen's had this year, and maybe it was the wrong call. I don't know.
Yeah, it's hard to listen. You can always second guess. There's no doubt. You can always easily Monday morning quarterback it. That's the easiest thing to do in sports. But the one thing that I would also say about TJ Friedl is that he's not really had. What's the right term to use? I don't think that the Reds expected him to be as productive as he's been this year. One iota. I think some of that's come of a surprise. Going into next year, if TJ Friedl continues to play relatively around the same pace he's played it all year, he doesn't drop off, there's no huge, slump going into the end of the season. If he plays well in spring training next year, and even as stupid as this sounds, I really think that this is the case. If he has relatively good splits going in and he holds those up through spring training next year, I think TJ Friedl will have to prove that he can't hit left-handed pitchers going into next season versus this year. I think this year is one of those situations where they're trying to make sure that he keeps his confidence, and they don't want to try to, I guess to your point, I think that they baby these guys. Maybe I don't say too much, but they certainly baby these guys. They certainly put white gloves on, and they try to make sure that they put them in the best positions as possible instead of just saying, "Hey, let's see if you can do it." Right? Let's just see if you can do it. Which you could argue both ways are effective. Because, again, it seems like we also do this on every other show. Brandon Williamson's a guy that you could say, well, maybe sometimes you shouldn't baby him. You should just say, hey, man, if you think you want to be up here, let's see what you got. And some guys will respond to that in a positive manner, and some guys maybe fold up like a tent. I don't know. TJ Friedl, I think, could be a guy going into next year to where, as you mentioned, I don't know if he'll be as much of a platoon player as he's been this year. I hope not, because I think he's pretty good defensively.
TJ Friedl also has started 29 of the last 32 games. So it's not like he's really been platooned all that much. I think today was more of an exception just because of the starting pitcher. And maybe that was the wrong call. I'm willing to admit. TJ Hopkins did actually get on base in one of his two at-bats, which was the guy that wouldn't have sat. So
yeah,
I don't know. Kind of, it is what it is. But TJ Friedl has 29 of the last 32 he started. So he's been in there just about every single day. He has not been used far more than Benson or Fraley were. So, yeah, I don't think he really even is a platoon player right now.
Yeah, a couple quick notes here. David Brown brings up a point, and he says, those that are blaming David Bell instead of the guys at the plate are not intelligent. Or excuse me, that was Who's Your Daddy. I think here's the thing with that Hoosier. I think that there's just frustration by a fan base that has to go out and watch a lineup that exists of Kevin Newman, Henry Ramos, TJ Hopkins, and they look at the standings and they see that they're a half game out of a playoff. They see that they're a half game out of a playoff spot. That draws frustration, which is that David Bell's fault? I don't know. I don't know. I'd venture to say that it's probably not, but at the same time, you can at least kind of see it and say, okay, I kind of get it. I kind of understand why somebody would be pretty pissed off about this, because if you have Will Benson in there, if you have TJ Friedl in there, at least in your mind, you think you got a good player in there, even though they might not be a good player against a left-handed pitcher. Your brain is going to trick you into thinking that you have a decent player in there. I mean, I'm just telling you, that's the truth. And they might not be good. They might not be good. But the one thing can we at least admit on this, though? I know Will Benson, maybe his splits have been garbage throughout his minor league career and maybe a little bit into his major league career with lefties. The only thing about Will Benson, like as tonight, I think that he would have an edge over maybe a platoon type of a guy, is his plate discipline is so good that I think he could draw a walk. He might hit for a really poor average, but a night like tonight, he might an extended at bat. He might battle. TJ Friedel feels like the same type of player. Is that what you're looking for? Probably not. I get that you're not hoping that you could send a guy up there just because he's going to solely walk. But I do think a guy like, let's say, Will Benson could offer more than an Ellie De La Cruz type player. Ellie's obviously a switch hitter, so I'm not using it as that example. But a free swinging type of player might not be as productive. All right, Jonathan India, he kind of was in the papers again. That Gordon Wittenmeyer, whatever that guy's name, he seems to be him and Jonathan India must go to lunch all the time and dinner, and they must be best friends, because there was another story today where India was obviously talking about how he's very frustrated, that he feels like, and I'm paraphrasing, Nick, you can obviously elaborate on this, but he's relatively frustrated that he felt like he got bad advice with this injury from the start.
Yeah, it was just I guess that India's second opinion said he should have got more rest. That doesn't seem to jive with the way the Reds have treated most injuries. It feels like over the last few years, especially with David Bell at the helm, the Reds have been more conservative than anything else. At least that's my feeling as someone who's watched and followed. So I did find those comments a little interesting. I mean, I'm sure India's just really frustrated. This has been a brutal year for him. I'm sure it's probably more just frustration getting out than anything, that he hasn't performed as much as he would have liked. He was in trade rumors all year, and then he got hurt on top of it. I mean, I'm sure it's just frustration. But the comments, like the first story about India, remember we really pushed back on the whole, we felt like that was very like overdone, and what India said was fine. This one, I was a little more like, this would have been better just to, keep it zipped and move along. That's the way I read it, at least.
It definitely seems like Jonathan India is a guy that's willing to speak his mind, and he's definitely willing to show his emotion. I think that's admirable more times than not. I'd prefer a guy to speak how he really feels than to hold it back and let frustration bubble over. And there's a difference, but that's where there's a distinct difference in a clubhouse between speaking to the media and actually telling it how you feel inside a clubhouse with your guys. You can be open and transparent in the locker room and then go directly to a reporter 10 minutes later and just say, hey, this is kind of something that I'd like to keep between me and the team out of respect for the locker room, and you keep it moving. India's been a little, I don't want to say too much forthcoming to the media, because we are in the media business. We'd like to consider the fact that we do want those nuggets. We want to hear about what their actual truth is. But there's no doubt that I could see how Nick Krall and front office and David Bell is frustrated by what he's doing. Maybe I'm overselling that a little bit, but there's no doubt that Nick Krall and David Bell, in the back of their mind at least, they might not say this publicly, but in the back of their mind, they're not like, dude, just shut the hell up. Just shut up, dude. Just stop talking to this guy.
One thing that kind of come of this, and then Tyler Stevenson this year, and then how far Jesse Winker's fallen off a cliff, something we definitely need to caution ourselves on is extensions. I know everyone, we all love Matt McClain, we all love Spencer Steer, we love all these guys, and there's every reason in the world to love all these guys, and there's no reason that those guys can't perform long term. But the vast majority of Reds fans wanted Winker extended, they wanted Stevenson extended, they wanted India extended. Sometimes these extensions aren't necessarily the best course going forward, and there probably should. I'm not saying that we should never do it.
I understand where you're going with this.
Don't get me wrong on that.
I understand.
But there definitely needs to be a level of caution with it, and I think that those three examples kind of I don't know, hold a little bit of weight towards that.
Yeah. Chase Bircher says, I've been listening to this show for too long, and if either of you can defend this lineup, I'd be surprised. Chase, you can watch this show after the fact and scroll back, and you can listen to how we discussed this lineup and what we both think is good and bad. Nick and I, if there is anything that you can say about this show, it's that the two people that are on it don't have really the same ideological views about maybe the game of baseball. We both can agree to disagree on things. We both are respectful about our opinions. I think that Nick is very well educated in his thought process, and I think Nick, in a way, can understand where I come from sometimes. However, you're not going to, on this show, you're not going to get us in a position where we're probably going to change our mind on our ideological view of how this game should be played. I'd like to think that there is an avenue to where you can watch the game and make decisions based off of watching the game in real time and have a little bit of a feeling towards what you think will be the best position to put your team in to win, which is really what would make you earn a major league managerial salary, as opposed to some guy just sitting there on a computer all day telling you exactly what to do. But you have Nick, who is very well educated on splits and understands metrics and believes in a system. And it's been a system that, quite frankly, has been used by some teams in Major League Baseball that has been very, very successful. And if you think Nick Kirby for 1 second is going to watch a 3-0 baseball game on August 15th of 2023 and decide, you know what, platoons are dumb, we need to get rid of them, I can't stand this is stupid, then you just don't know. Then you just don't know Nick Kirby. And that's okay. Nothing that, if you knew Nick Kirby before the show and you knew me before the show, you probably already know our takes about the subject matter. If you don't, you can go back and watch like the first 20 minutes of this show and you'll get a pretty good education on where we're at with this. Let's stick with Jonathan India really fast. I don't know if it's, I just don't know what's in Jonathan India's mind. I'll speculate for a second because that's what you do on Sports Talk. I think Jonathan India is looking at his position and he's thinking to himself, and he sees to himself that there's not a spot.
Yeah.
I really do. And he's frustrated by it. He's pissed off by it. He can't get in the lineup. What he was trying to do all year long was just box everybody out, which is not a bad strategy. Not a bad strategy. If I play incredibly well at second base and I play incredibly well offensively, then it's hard to take me out of the lineup. It's hard to move me. It's hard to get rid of me. You get hurt and you let a guy like Matt McClain play second base for a little while, and he starts having a lot of success, and he looks good doing it, and Ellie De La Cruz looks good defensively at least. You start to look around and you ask yourself, where am I going to come back and fit in? And that's where I think some of the frustration boils over. I really do. And again, that's all hypothetical. That's me making this up. Jonathan India might not have any issue at all with any of the stuff that I just mentioned. So, again, to be clear, asterisk, that's my personal belief.
Yeah, I think you're spot on there. I mean, India's a smart guy. He sees what's coming. And it's like, I'm sure he's watching the game tonight and seeing Matt McClain and Ellie look really good at shortstop and second, and he knows, hey, there's that top 100 prospect in AAA that's playing third base right now. Like, it's not hard to see that. One last point.
Jonathan India, let's be clear, really last point I want to make, and the reason I believe that is because Jonathan India has said time and time again that he has no interest in playing left field, and he doesn't want to be a DH. He has said out loud to the public that he is a second baseman, and that's what he is. Take it or leave it. He knows that's what he is. Those are his words, not mine. So we're not going to do that on the show again, by the way. We're not doing the whole India thing on the show, but you get my point. Like, he has a space on this team. I'm not boxing him out from this team. He could be valuable as a DH. He can be valuable as a left fielder. But if he doesn't want to do that, that's a whole other story for another day. I promise I'm not going down that path on this show.
Yeah, in fairness to India, like, he makes a lot more money playing second base long term. He's worked hard to play it, and I don't blame him for wanting that. And the Reds could absolutely 1,000% use Jonathan India right now. God, if I could have him back in the lineup, I would have him back in the lineup. And then one last point here. Like, I think people think, like, when I saw TJ Hopkins was in the lineup, I was just running around my house like, let's freaking go, baby. Let's go. Like, come on. Like, that's not it. Like, I would much rather have a guy like Jonathan India in the lineup tonight. I just think this probably gave the Reds the best chance tonight. And it's fine if you hate me for that. But I promise I'm not running around my house going, oh, my God, that is the lineup card, David. That's it, baby. That's it.
Oh, that's funny. I mean, I don't care who you are. If you hate analytics, you hate Nick Kirby, whatever, you can at least admit that's funny. At least that's that. Come on.
TJ Hopkins, baby.
We got a who, what, when, and where and why situation again. The Ohio Cup seems like one that we can't quite win, but here we are. I don't know. Hopefully we can figure it out. But Nick, who, what, when, where, and why?
Yeah, Andrew Abbott coming off a great start. Need him big tomorrow. This is a big spot for him. Man, Abbott just answered the call here, and then the Reds will be going up against Noah Syndergaard. Reds put 6 runs against him when he was with the Dodgers back on June 7th, 7 hits. So hopefully the Reds can have that kind of success again. We'll need it. Got some minor league stuff for you as well. Not really all that interested in the scores tonight, but definitely some stuff to go over. Hunter Green through tonight for Louisville, 5 2/3 innings, 1 hit, no earned runs, 3 walks, 9 strikeouts. Obviously, Hunter Green's not going to help the Reds offense, but he certainly can help the Reds rotation. And you know what? Hopefully when Hunter Green comes back, maybe the offense will find their groove. So he pitched really well. And then Nick Lodolo made his first rehab start, and he was outstanding. 3 innings pitched, no hits, no runs, 2 walks, 6 strikeouts. So that's great to see. Need both of those guys. Hopefully the Reds can kind of stay afloat until they're back. I'm guessing Hunter Green's probably back this weekend, right? 5 2/3 innings.
Yeah, I would think so.
And then 2 other quick notes. Novi Marte, 2 for 3. Edwin Arroyo, 2 for 5 tonight. So good to see those guys staying hot. And I would be on a night where we need some good vibes, Trace.
We need them all.
Jason Vossler homer tonight.
Oh, man. Did you see that? That was a genuine reaction, too. That just made my heart happy. God, nothing better than Jason Vossler, dude. Nothing. I'll tell you what, Jason Vossler, but he is a guy. He is a guy that can resurrect the chat. Tell you what you just did, boy. You just got the chat. They're doing a group hug as we speak right now. There's no doubt in my mind. There's no doubt in my mind.
I know we all want the Reds to win a World Series this year for Joey Votto, and obviously that is a absolutely great mantra, and he deserves it. But Jason Vossler deserves a ring too.
Right.
How about win one for Vossler? Start that hashtag.
Right. I mean, he was a big part of opening day, I can tell you that. That one guy, 15, thank you for the super chat, said, I love Kirby. Just 100% disagree with his platoons. Hey, listen, here's the only thing I would say to that. I also was screaming and yelling about Jake Fraley early this year playing and Kevin Newman pinch hitting for Jake Fraley at the end of games. And Nick will tell you, I was not happy about it. If you watch a guy long enough, though, that has the splits that Nick says, hey, he's got really bad splits, well, he's usually not talking about a season. He's talking about years and years worth of minor league stats. And let me tell you something. I had to watch Jake Fraley play and hit against left-handed pitching, I don't know, maybe 2 or 3 games in a row or whatever it was. And I had seen enough. That guy, if you that's the one weird thing about baseball. If you morphed him into 2 different players, right? You had Jake Fraley facing right-handed pitching, and you had Jake Fraley facing left-handed pitching, and they were 2 different people. But you couldn't tell the public that. You just had to trick them. They had to look like 2 different guys. They wore 2 different jerseys. They had 2 different names. I'm telling you, chat. Jake Fraley against left-handed pitching, you would have said, I don't want to ever see him on the face of earth again. I don't want to see him play again. So as somebody that is also a guy with his hand up that says, do I love all of the platooning? No. Would I like the Reds just to get some good players where we don't have to do this all the time? That'd be kind of nice. That'd be cool. It'd be kind of nice if we had some guys that didn't have so drastic splits against people, and we could just, maybe not do this 3-ring circus, it feels like, every single week about, who's on first and what's on second. But my main point is, before you kill him, be careful about the splits. Be careful. Be careful what you wish for. Because sometimes, I'm just telling you, I watched it with my own eyes, the splits actually do make a difference. Do I think they make enough? Do I think TJ Friedl should be sitting against left-handed pitchers, especially when his replacement is basically a AAA player? Probably not. But I'm not going to get sideways about it after one game. I would like to put my hand up and say, Nick can say whatever he wants. Oh, back in the day, that wasn't the case. You didn't know Will Benson was a thing. I just want it to be known that I got made fun of. I got called names when I watched the baseball game, and I looked at it, and I seen the Reds face a left-handed pitcher, and I thought, golly, this team's lineup looks like shit. Kid show, but it looks awful. Good God. Looks like we're on the road to the show and we're playing for the Bats. 3 months later, I'm just saying. Now,
well, we got a really bad right-handed pitcher tomorrow. Thank God. We need it. And a day off Thursday. Double thank you. And the Marlins lost. So the Reds are still one game out of a playoff spot. So keep it moving. That is the theme of August. Keep it moving.
We need to tread some water. And we've been trying to tread it. And boy, I'll tell you what, it's almost like we keep throwing the raft away. Every time someone throws us the raft, it seems like this Reds team looks at it and then they just throw it 10 feet farther. But anyways, really quickly, I will end the show on this. Did you put out a tweet that said that the Reds tiebreaker against the Marlins was the interdivision? Is that true, or are we still not sure about that? So
I looked.
That is
let me
true.
walk you through it real quick.
Please do.
Let me walk you through it because I spent about a whole minute and a half of research on this. I Googled tiebreakers and then that was it. But I'm just kidding.
Never heard of Google.
Well, but no. So the tiebreaker, if you have a team that finished with a 500 record against each other, Reds finished 3-3. So the next tiebreaker is your record against your own division. So that's kind of wild. That makes absolutely no sense if it's two teams that aren't in the same division, but that is the rule. The Reds, I'll pull it up for you. The Reds are behind the Marlins quite a bit in that.
Why wouldn't they make it? Why wouldn't they make it the record versus the league?
The whole I have no idea why.
What the?
That's the next tiebreaker. If you're still tied after that, which I mean that seems very unlikely, then it's versus the other divisions, not your own. But the Reds record against the NL, of course you have to do it to the advanced. All right, the Reds record is 16-23. So thank you, all those Milwaukee games.
Yeah,
and the Marlins are 14-19. So I mean,
not great.
They're
they got 7 games.
No,
against
I'm
the Nationals,
I'm looking at the wrong one. Reds are 16-23 against the NL Central.
Yeah.
The Marlins are 14-19. So the Marlins have a lot more games, and they do have a bunch against the Braves and the Phillies. So watch the.
What about the Nationals?
I want to pick. They got a few against the Nationals, but the Nationals are playing well right now. We saw that.
Yeah, I better stop talking.
Nationals are hot. The Nationals are hot.
Isn't it weird? Isn't it something? Well, in the show, obviously, we need to get off here. But isn't it something kind of unique about Major League Baseball, just in general, of when you catch teams? I mean, some teams you run into them and they're a really good team, but they're just playing lousy, like the Reds are kind of right now. And there's times where you run into a team and they're horrible, but they're just playing. They're playing pretty good baseball.
Pittsburgh earlier in the year, that 4-game series in Pittsburgh. Pittsburgh, I mean, remember they were in the top 10 power rankings when you saw them, and the Reds, half their team hadn't arrived. And yeah, I mean, the Reds have also, I think, caught some of that the other way. So I don't want to be like, oh, we got screwed in that series. I think the Reds have also played some teams when they also weren't at their best. So it probably overall is evened out, but that'll be definitely interesting the rest of the way. Is the Reds have a lot of games against teams below 500, but How are those teams playing? Are they bringing up some rookies that are on their Ellie De La Cruz first 3-week honeymoon, where they're, unstoppable, or have they already kind of been up for a while and they're kind of, riding out the string at the end? You don't know how a lot of those teams will look at the end of the season.
Fair enough. No, that's fair. All right.
You've been crushing it on Off the
I
Bench.
don't
I've
know
really
about that.
enjoyed it. No, you guys have been doing great. Really good content. I've enjoyed watching it. So everyone tune in. 10A to 12P.
That's right. So, yeah, your boy here has to fill in the holes that are off the bench. I'm doing my best. The only issue that I'm going to run into is that tomorrow I think Charlie Goldschmidt's coming on the show. If you have anything that you think that I should ask him, feel free to DM me or shoot me a message on Twitter, and I'll consider it. Obviously, I'm sure I get in on Lodolo. I don't know how much Charlie's been around the clubhouse, but I'd like to know what his opinion is on at least the vibes around the clubhouse. Does he feel like there's stress? Does he feel like there's some anxiety that has come with this? Because a long time, for most of this year, Nick, I think this team was playing happy-go-lucky. Nobody expected pretty much a damn thing from them. And then all of a sudden, at some point, these expectations became a real thing. And I hate to say this, but as soon as those expectations became like a real thing, they've not really played that great. They just haven't. I mean, they had their hot run. They had a chance to take a hold of the division, and they've not played well since. I wonder if that's just the vibes in the clubhouse, or is that just a team that's not great? And I say not great. Doesn't mean I don't think they're decent and good, but not a great team cooling off. We'll see. So I'm going to see what Charlie has to say about that. And as always, a reminder, Nick does a fantastic job, works very hard on this podcast, makes sure that it's out every single morning. I know many of you maybe don't listen to it because you watch our show live on YouTube, but if you don't listen to this show, please do me a favor if you don't mind. I think last time I checked, we were just shy of like 100 ratings and reviews on there. It'll take you every bit of 3 minutes to go on your podcast app, search Chatterbox Reds, give us a review. I know it sounds goofy, but at all said and done, for us to continue to do this at the level in which we are doing it, we obviously have to find ways to make it worth our time, effort, and energy. And your reviews, you guys watching this show, does more to us. I'm not even talking financially. I'm just talking from a morale boosting, if you will, of anything, of doing this show each and every day. And we appreciate you watching. So if you don't mind, go give us a review. That would be very, very nice of you. The chat in and of itself, I think that many of you are obviously knowledgeable fans. Let's try to keep it. Listen, I know that it's a little hostile in here. Let's try to keep it respectful, at least, if anything else. I don't want to be your dad. I have to try to at least be a parent to three children. I don't want to have to try to be a parent.
And Reed Mouse.
Yeah, well, Reed is Reed. Yeah, Reed is Reed. I get that you're grown adults. You do whatever you want. You have free will. That's the beautiful thing about this country, and it's the beautiful thing about being a human being on planet Earth is that you do have free will. The only promise that I ask is just that, hey, we can debate, we can banter, we can, have fun. Let's just try to keep things relatively respectful. That's all. Keep it moving. If anything, let's venture on the side of being overly optimistic, because you know why? This company wouldn't be here if it wasn't just from sheer willpower of optimism. That's all it was. It wouldn't be here. The show would not exist if it wasn't for somebody that was just absolutely ridiculously steadfast on a belief system that you could make something work when a lot of people told you that you couldn't. So I will never apologize for thinking that you can speak things into existence. I think that you can speak things into existence, and until it doesn't work for me, I'm going to not basically believe the idea that it can't be done. So all I ask is if you have something to believe in the power of positivity. And I'm telling you right now, if we can get some likes, I know Who's Your Daddy kind of made a joke about it the other day. I don't give a damn. Who's Your Daddy's one of the OGs. He's allowed to make fun. He's allowed to poke and prod. But we need to get to 100 likes. We have 148 people in here. I just want to try it out. Let's just give it a test. Could you at least try it? Come back in here on Friday and crush me if we don't win tomorrow. Crush me. I've seen it work too many times. Likes equals wins. I know you think, oh, Trace, that's some stupid old stuff that you guys do. It doesn't make any sense. The likes didn't work. Okay, well, I'll tell you what. We had a lot of positive energy in this chat for a long, long time, and I can tell you, we won a lot of baseball games. Does it matter? I don't know. Do you think it matters? Probably not. But it might matter. It might. You can't prove to me that it doesn't work. That's the thing. Until someone guarantees and they can prove without a shadow of doubt that it doesn't work, likes don't equal wins, I won't ask for them anymore. Okay? So we got 64 likes. Do I have to sit here and run this live stream until we get to 100? I'm watching it as I speak here. I'm going into the chat. Molly says, no, I'm going to guess someone from Hamilton owns Chatterbox. Why is that? Because I have a Hamilton chair? Trace believes in the law of positive attraction. I do believe that you can manifest many things. I do believe that. I believe in the power of the mind. Randy, thank you for the like. Many of you, thank you for the like. I know that this goes maybe too far often, or maybe you're tired of hearing me say this. There's 140 people in here after not a fun loss on a weekday night. Guys, I love you for watching this show, man. I really appreciate your loyalty to us. I don't know how it's going to end. It might end in sorrow. It might end in tears. It might end with us doing a watch party and Who's Your Daddy's going to be here smashing some beers. It might end that way. I don't know how it's going to end. Maybe Evan and maybe we can set up like a rough and rowdy. Evan and Who's Your Daddy will go at it. We'll get him some 12-ounce boxing gloves. We'll set it up right there in the backyard. We'll get a big screen. We'll live stream it for the viewers. I don't know how it all ends. But I do know that I appreciate you guys watching this show. We're at 80 likes. Nick, do you have anything left to say before we end the stream? And I really would like to end the stream with 100 likes. I really would. We have enough people in here to do it.
Well, we got a legit question while we're waiting for the likes to roll in, which I'm sure they're going to come. Craig Sandlin, loyal viewer of the show. Thanks for chiming in, Craig, and watching as always. Opening day 2024 rotation. This is obviously you're assuming no injuries. It's almost every year someone of your starting pitching core gets injured. So that's why I've preached many times you need depth. But let's just assume everyone's healthy. Green, Lodolo, Abbott, Ashcraft. I feel like your first four are just about as penciled in as you can possibly have right now. And then I would say Connor Phillips probably. I would say Brandon Williamson probably ends up being the odd man out if everyone's healthy. And that's pretty cool. That's a cool thing in my opinion. If you have a starter that could be that good, that maybe you could move him to the bullpen. Maybe he starts the year in AAA. That's a pretty awesome thing. So that's what really just, man, you look at how deep the Reds rotation could be. And I think I wouldn't be against adding another starter. Imagine if you went into next year with your top five as Green, Lodolo, Ashcraft, Abbott, and you went out and you signed a free agent for like a 2-year deal that could be like kind of that veteran to add to it. And then you throw Connor Phillips down to AAA if everyone's healthy. And your first guy getting called up is Connor Phillips. Man, that's where you can really grind out teams over the season. That's what the Brewers do, right? The Brewers, they don't bring up bad starters. They don't bring up I'm not going to disrespect anyone at 12:06 on a Tuesday night, but you know what I mean. Like, they don't bring up guys that have no business being here. So that's what really I think is exciting. And I would love to see them add one more starter just to really make that depth an absolute strength.
Yeah, because if anything this year, what's been proven is that depth is a necessity when it comes to starting pitching. You can't. It's next to impossible to have 5 starters and think that it's going to go well all year long, whether that's through production or whether that's through injury. I would even argue that it'd be nice to have a situation to where if a guy like Ashcraft struggles like he was struggling earlier this year, you have the ability in the luxury of being able to give him maybe a start or two down in Louisville before you bring him back up and maybe he gets his bearings straight. I think that should be like a normal, okay thing. Now, whether or not that happens, I don't know. There's a lot of stigmas to break around that. I think that it's one of those things where for a long time, like the idea of going down to AAA has such a negative connotation to it throughout the league itself that they've ventured to never try to do that, but maybe they will next year. I do think that it's wild to sit here and think that Williamson might not be in the rotation next year, especially if he throws anywhere close to what he's been throwing the back half of this year. But it's very possible. It's very possible, especially if they go ahead and add another rotation piece. But Rhett Lauder might be a guy that comes in and starts shoving that we don't know. I mean, we don't know. We just have no clue what that's going to look like.
And you could also do what the Giants did this year, which I think has been a real strength for them because their starting pitching really is not that good outside of their top two guys. You have guys throw 3-4 innings. So maybe it's Williamson and Phillips. Maybe they're just a tandem next year. Man, that's a tough time. You only get to face those guys twice. You don't get a third crack against them. That could be a really, really difficult. And that's kind of a way to maybe maximize, your non-elite starters. So I think Green, Lodolo, and Abbott certainly have penciled themselves in. And Ashcraft, if he's not there, is really, really close. But it does give you a lot of flexibility. It's another strategy to do it, and that also saves your bullpen if you're getting relievers that can come in and throw 3-4 innings at a time. Because that's really, I think, has been a real the one downfall of the Reds this year. Is as good as the bullpen's been, they haven't had guys that can go multiple innings very often.
Last thing I'll say is I am going to end the night on this. I am going to go and enjoy a baseball game for more. I mean, I loved watching the Reds so much. I'm going to go watch more baseball. So White Sox currently, they're currently playing the Cubs. I'm not going to really get into whether they're winning or losing because you never know with that.
It's exciting that matters. It's exciting that matters. We did not think that was going to matter on August 15th. 4 months ago.
Yep. Kill us for saying it. Kill us for saying it. I know. Loser's mentality for saying that it's unbelievable that on August 15th we're still talking about scoreboard watching. But the biggest point of news I want to bring to you is that we sat here, we bought enough time for you to get 100 likes on this stream. Thank you. I mean, I don't know. Thank you. I've got to wake up tomorrow. I got to do a show in the morning. If you watch that show as well, I got to be honest, you are more loyal than I would ever be. For you to listen to me talk for this long about sports is kind of wild. I try to do my best. Nick does his best without a question and shadow of doubt. He runs this show. This is his show. And until otherwise, we'll see you better than ever tomorrow. This has been
for a win.
Chatterbox
for a
Reds.
Win.
And we will win because you got 100 likes. I can guarantee it. In fact, I'll tell you what. I'll make you a deal. You don't believe me? I'll put the rest of my account. Remember that? Remember when I said I was going to put my whole account? Remember when I said I was going to put my whole account on the Reds the other night, and it was looking really, really dicey, and things got really bad, and then all of a sudden the Reds came back and won? I'm going to do it again. I want to lose that money. I want to lose it. But you know what? I can't lose it because the Reds are going to win. We got 100 likes. We will not lose tomorrow. Well, and we'll be back tomorrow to talk about it. So until then, I'm going to play the outro. Nick's going to play some graphics over the screen, and we're going to see you. Thank you. We love you. Go Reds.